This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Algeria has chaired, or as chair of the AU Peace and Security Council for August, has chaired the annual consultative meeting on human rights, democracy, governance and peace and security. Polisario Front representative Sidi Omar has stressed that the Moroccan occupier lacks the political will to reach a final settlement to the Western Sahara conflict in line with international law. The UN has warned that East Africa is facing a major humanitarian crisis with more than 14 million people suffering from acute food insecurity. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition on Radio Algeria International. Good afternoon. The Algerian national media had broadcast a documentary featuring confessions from 6 individuals linked to the MAC movement who allegedly revealed the plan to disrupt Algeria's July 2nd legislative elections, particularly in Kabylia region. According to the documentary, the group used social media to organize meetings and call for an election boycott. Security services said they foiled the alleged attempts. The documentary also alleged that some members received instructions from MAC figures abroad and that Moroccan nationals illegally residing in Algeria provided financial support. Several of those featured expressed regret, saying they had been influenced by extremist propaganda. Algeria, in its capacity as chair of the African Union Peace and Security Council for the month of August, has chaired the annual consultative meeting between the Council and the Permanent Representatives Subcommittee of the Committee on Human Rights, Democracy and Governance, as well as the African Governance Architecture, African Peace and Security Architecture. The meeting is part of annual consultations aimed at assessing progress in strengthening coordination among AU bodies and institutions and exchanging views on emerging trends and challenges related to governance, democracy, the rule of law, human rights, as well as peace and security. Participants also discussed ways to develop coordinated African responses to the root causes of conflict and instability. The consultations are particularly significant as the Peace and Security Council will chair the committee's platform at both the political and technical levels from 2026 to 2028. This provides an opportunity to promote a One African Union approach and overcome fragmented approaches between governance and peace and security structures. In his opening remarks, Algeria's ambassador and permanent representative to the AU, Mohamed Khaled, highlighted progress made since the previous consultations, including preparations for the EU's 2028 theme on human rights, democracy and governance, the development of a joint committee roadmap, and the creation of an AU trigger model with the Continental Early Warning and Early Response Mechanism. He stressed the need to unify efforts, avoid duplication of initiatives and direct available resources towards joint action while strengthening existing initiatives. Participants called for stronger implementation of African legal instruments, particularly the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, and urged non-ratifying states to complete the process. They also called for moving from annual coordination to practical sustainable cooperation through joint initiatives, information sharing and conflict prevention while addressing governance gaps. The meeting concluded with a One African Union approach to strengthen coordination between governance and peace and security structures and improve the EU's response to conflicts and governance challenges. A final communiqué is expected. The permanent representative of the Polisario Front, representative of the Sahrawi state to the UN and coordinator of the UN mission to Western Sahara, Sidi Omar, has affirmed that the Moroccan occupier was lacking political will to reach a final settlement to the Western Sahara conflict in conformity with the international law. Addressing the 14th edition of the Summer University of the Polisario Front's executives in Boumerdès, he stressed that the Moroccan occupier continued to impose its occupation policy and enshrine its occupation of some parts of Western Sahara in violation of the international legality and the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. The Sahrawi official stated that the Sahrawi position translates the Sahrawis' search for a fair and lasting peace and reflects their will to allow the Sahrawi people to exercise its non-negotiable and inalienable right to self-determination and independence.
القضية الصحراوية تبقى قضية تصفية استعمار على مستوى الجمعية العامة للأمم المتحدة.
The Sahrawi issue remains an issue of decolonization at the UN General Assembly, with the UN Secretary Council deals with as a peace and security issue, and it is this legal framework that protects the rights of the Sahrawi people, notably its sovereignty over its natural resources and its right to fight occupation. We reiterated the Polisario Front's readiness to contribute to the international efforts.
في تقرير المصير والاستقلال.
Further affirmed that the Sahrawi state was ready to negotiate with Morocco the setting up of strategic and mutually beneficial relations between the two countries after a referendum on self-determination is held and the independence of the Arab and Democratic Sahrawi state is secured. Former Sahrawi political prisoners have described alleged torture, humiliation, and other human rights violations they say they suffered in Moroccan prisons, as well as pressure placed on their families and restrictions on family visits. The details in this report by Nabil Khazini.
Former Sahrawi political prisoners have described alleged torture, humiliation, and other human rights violations they say they suffered in Moroccan prisons, as well as pressure placed on their families and restrictions on family visits. Speaking during the 14th Summer University of Polisario Front and Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic officials in Boumerdès, several former detainees said they had endured psychological and physical torture, intimidation, poor prison conditions, food deprivation, and treatment they described as humiliating. Former prisoner Aziz Al-Wahidi, who spent 10 years in Moroccan prisons, said detainees were deprived of basic rights and family visits, while their relatives were also subjected to pressure and questioning. Other former political prisoners accused the Moroccan authorities of targeting activists and university students through arbitrary arrests, fabricated charges, and forced transfers between prisons to prevent detainees from maintaining contact. They also alleged that Sahrawi prisoners were held in overcrowded and degrading conditions, sometimes denied family visits for long periods, and deprived of administrative documents after their release. According to the testimonies, detainees' statements were obtained under coercion and torture, while families faced pressure following what they described as arbitrary detention orders. The former prisoners also claimed that some activists were detained again after their release.
The Moroccan authorities have expelled a team of journalists from Spanish public broadcaster TVE and Spanish news agency EFE from the city of Nidec while they were covering attempts at irregular migration to Ceuta and the social situation near the border between the two countries. The move sparked strong condemnation as an attack on the press freedom. Observers believe the decision may be linked to Moroccan authorities' anger over Spanish media coverage of the mass movement of tens of thousands of Moroccans towards Ceuta at the end of July, as well as reports highlighting the alleged involvement of Moroccan authorities in the influx of irregular migrants into the city in an attempt to pressure Madrid and the European Union. The Spanish public broadcaster RTV had published an investigation highlighting growing social discontent in Morocco amid difficult economic and social conditions alongside the recent migration crisis in Ceuta. The BA had also aired a report stating that the arrival of more than 72,000 Moroccan migrants in Ceuta was an organized operation rather than simply spontaneous migration. In a statement, it strongly rejected the Moroccan authorities' decision to order its news team, along with journalists from EFE, to leave Fnidaq. The broadcaster said the journalists had been conducting rigorous work in the public interest on population movements and the social situation in the border area with Ceuta. Moroccan authorities reportedly told them verbally to leave the city, citing only the execution of instructions without providing an official explanation. RTV President José Pablo López said that the expulsion of the journalists constituted a serious obstacle to press freedom and the right to access information. He stressed the RTV journalists' commitment to providing honest, objective and on-the-ground coverage of migration-related events should not be subject to arbitrary decisions preventing the reality from being reported. EFE also condemned the expulsion of its journalists and those from TVE, saying that the threat to withdraw their accreditation and professional equipment in order to force them to leave their hotels without any official justification constituted a direct attack on press freedom and citizens' right to reliable information. The agency added that preventing the Spanish press from reporting from the field arbitrarily restricts its ability to provide an independent and reliable account on events. The British Secretary of State for the Middle East and North Africa, Stefan Doughty, has called for an end to put the Jewish settlers-related violence and attacks carried out against the Palestinians in the West Bank. In a message posted on social networks, he stressed that the awful and horrifying acts of violence and terrorism perpetrated by settlers and which the world once again witnessed in the Palestinian territory must stop. It's worth recalling that later last month, the United Kingdom condemned the Israeli occupation plans as well as the continued attacks carried out by settlers against the Palestinians, while recalling that the settlements are illegal regarding international law and call it into question the prospects of a two-state solution. Former Palestinian ambassador to France and Tunisia, Salman al-Hanfi, denounced the Israeli government's practices in the West Bank as well as means of achieving electoral gains.
These
are the maneuvers of Netanyahu, who is using genocide as a means to participate in his election, since he is carrying out crimes and win votes among the Jewish settlers and the Israeli population. The main objective of this criminal act is to annex the West Bank and using it as a pretext to increase the chances for the elections.
Over the past weeks, the West Bank has been confronted with an unprecedented escalation in the settlers' violence and attacks perpetrated against the Palestinians and their property amid a wave of international condemnations and calls for the protection of the civilian population and for the accountability of those behind such crimes. Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli army pursued its airstrikes on the enclave, causing immense losses and more destruction, according to the news agency Wafa. The body of one youngster has been found following an Israeli attack on the southern town of Khan Yunis. The UN has warned that East Africa is facing a major humanitarian crisis with more than 40 million people suffering from acute food insecurity. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, said that 40.4 million people are affected, particularly in South Sudan, Sudan and Somalia, while acute malnutrition remains alarming, affecting 8.3 million children under 5. Back to national news. Algeria and Mali have held a recent resumption of relations between the two countries, advocating the promotion of cooperation and development of the two neighbors. In this respect, Malian Sheikh Omar Mamba Diop held the move, saying it will serve the strategic and security interests of the two countries and allow for the promotion of stability and development in the region.
الجزائر وباماكو أدركتا أن استمرار القطيعة.
Algiers and Bamako have acknowledged that the breaking off was much undermining than serving their security and strategic interests, and the sister country Algeria needs a stability of its southern borders, and Mali needs a stable relationship with a neighbor with which it shares long border and who has a major political and security weight in the Sahel-Sahara region. So Algeria, considering its strategic, security and economic strength with its neighbor Mali, it is necessary to re-establish relations between the two countries. It is worth noting that the language that accompanied the reconciliation was based on mutual respect, sovereignty and cooperation.
That was Malian Sheikh Omar Mamba Diop. The 9th International Cultural Festival Summer in Music has kicked off here in Algiers with a concert by Naima Ziria, one of the leading figures of popular Shabi and Hausa music, before a large audience. The festival was inaugurated by Abdel Nasser Khalaf, representing the Minister of Culture and Arts, Malika Bendouda, in the presence of Festival Commissioner Khadija Dahmani and several local officials. Held under the slogan Melodies of the World, the Spirit of Algeria, the festival's opening night featured Naima Ziria performing around 15 songs. Her performance received a warm reception, with the audience joining the refrains and responding with ululations and applause. Supported by an orchestra of around 10 musicians, Naima Ziria performed several well-known Hausa pieces before turning to Shabi classics by masters such as Sheikh Mohammed Al-Baji, Al-Hajj Al-Hashmi Al-Garwabi and Al-Hajj Bujamha Al-Ankris. Organizers said the festival continues to set itself as a major cultural event and as an important driver of cultural activity in Algiers, held under the patronage of the Ministry of Culture and Arts in cooperation with the Algiers province. The event aims to promote social cohesion and strengthen the capital's tourist appeal while highlighting Algeria's cultural heritage. Algeria's women's national football team made history by winning the bronze medal in the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations AFCON, securing the country's first ever medal in the competition. The Greens defeated host Morocco 3-0 in penalties after the match ended 1-1 in regular time. Algeria showed great character, coming from behind before prevailing in a tense penalty shootout. Coach Farid Benstiti praised his players for their strong reaction after the semi-final defeat, saying the bronze medal rewarded their determination and collective effort. Goalkeeper Chloe Ngazi played a key role in the shootout, highlighting the team's solidarity and pride in becoming the first Algerian women's side to reach the continental podium. Lina Boussaha, named player of the match, said the team was determined to make history. She described the achievement as fabulous, saying Algeria had already made history by qualifying for its first Women's World Cup and had now reached the African podium. Several European countries were battling major wildfires fueled by prolonged drought and a series of exceptional heat waves. In Belgium, evacuations near fire that has destroyed more than 1,650 hectares. In Spain, fires in Aragon and Andalusia have affected around 40,000 hectares combined and forced about 1,000 people to evacuate, with hundreds of firefighters deployed. France has evacuated 650 people as fires in the Landes region burnt 1,600 hectares, while Croatia and Serbia were also battling large forest fires. Greece remained on maximum alert, with more than 50 new fires reported in the past 24 hours amid strong winds. And in Indonesia, thousands of people evacuated after a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake, which struck the Flores Island, are still waiting for aid. The earthquake killed 53 people and injured 135 others, while 5,000 people have been displaced. At least 914 homes were severely damaged, along with dozens of schools, health facilities and government buildings. Some areas remained without electricity or telecommunications, and survivors urgently need food, drinking water, medicines, tents and generators. Authorities are preparing to declare a 14-day state of emergency. The tsunami warning issued after the quake was quickly lifted, but residents have been urged to stay away from damaged buildings due to the risk of further aftershocks. The Indonesian government has sent 50,000 humanitarian kits, while the Red Cross and Red Crescents are preparing additional aid. With this last piece of news, we come to the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned to Radio Algeria International.
Welcome to your weekly program, Inspiring Figures. Today we'll shed light on a legend of the Algerian Shabi music, namely Dahman Al-Harashi. The word Shabi means popular in Arabic, and while it has different musical connotations depending on the region, in Algeria, Shabi refers to a tradition of urban folk music that combines the regional poetic repertoire of Milhoun with the soulful Andalusian style arrangements of Derbuka drums, violins, mondo, and banjo as well. The music came of age in the 50s and 60s, thanks in large parts to the musician and composer Al-Hajj Mohammed Al-Anqa. But Dahman Al-Harashi, who was born in the city of Algiers in 1925 and died in a car accident in 1980, was also a key figure. He spent a lot of his life living as an expatriate in France, in Paris, playing in smoky cafes for fellow Algerian migrants and imparting sometimes brutally honest messages with his plaintive melodies and husky voice. He is mostly remembered by his song Ya Rayah, which says, "Oh traveler, let me give you a piece of advice. Consider what is in your interest before you sell everything you have."
يا رايح وين مسافر تروح تعيا وتولي شحال ندموا العباد الغافلين قبلك وقبلي يا رايح وين مسافر تروح تعيا وتولي شحال ندموا العباد الغافلين قبلك وقبلي شفت البلدان العامرين والبر الخالي شحال ضيعت وقت وشحال تزيد ما زال تخلي يا الغايب في بلاد الناس شحال تعيا ما تجري ليك وعد القدرة ولا الزمان وانت ما تدري.
He sings in his famous song Ya Rayah a bitter ode to the immigrant life that was later covered in the 90s by Algerian star Rachid Taha. The song Ya Rayah says he's asking potential immigrants, "Hey, where is it you're heading to? I'm telling you, you will be back. How many other days before you and I took this trip and ended up going back? How many of these human beings end up just wasting their time?" He's talking about decades. How many decades are you willing to waste before you realize you do not belong here? The song Ya Rayah was translated into multiple languages around the world. Let's listen to it.
يا رايح وين مسافر تروح تعيا وتولي شحال ندموا العباد الغافلين قبلك وقبلي.
Dahman Harashi came from a generation of Algerian immigrants who felt caught between two cultures as they gave up everything they had in their homeland in pursuit of employment and opportunity in a foreign country. So he expressed a great nostalgia in his songs that related to many Algerians.
يلي مولوع بالمحبة والغرام مالك سهران على النجوم وحداني يا مدرشي سبب ضرك الخصام.
Dahman Harashi had his first real scene during the Festival of Maghrebian Music held in the 70s in Paris. In Algeria, the homeland he loves and cherishes, his lovers managed to see him on stage twice before he died tragically in 1980 in a car accident over Algiers' cornice that he admired so much. He left a rich repertoire. Among his songs, we can list Zouj Hamamat or Two Doves, اللي يزرع الريح or What Goes Around Comes Around, and خبيث الرك يا الغافل. The Algerian young artists have done many covers of Dahman's songs, notably his famous song Ya Rayah. Dahman Harashi, who they admire and who will remain a legend of the Algerian modern shabi.
سبحان الله رات عيني زوج حمامات في قصار قبل السماء والبحار وحدة مسينة بالحناني الأخرى ما هي محنيها. الأولى قالت بركاني أنا نمشي للصفر نعاشر بلاد الحشار ونشوف واش كان في مقامي بالك ندير مالية قسطو يا جاز خبرني قال لي بركاك من الصبار متى تسهايف السهار وتشوفي شوفات المعاني كيسان ضرا في محيا
Hello and welcome to this fresh edition of Inspiring Figures. Today we'll shed light on a promising young Algerian author, namely Kawthar Adimi. Kawthar Adimi was born in Algiers in 1986. She's a graduate in modern literature and human resources management. From the age of 4 to the age of 8, she lived with her family in Grenoble in France. It's during this period that she discovered the pleasure of reading by going to the public library every week with her dad. In 1994, she returned to Algeria during the Black Decade. Having very few opportunities to read, she started to write her own stories. While she was studying in Algiers University, she entered a writing contest organized by the French Institute for the Young Writers in Muret. The short story she submitted held the attention of the jury, who published it in a collection alongside the other laureates' productions. Thanks to this contest, she was invited to Muret, to the French city of Muret, then to Toulouse, and finally to Paris, where she met with the publishing house Balzac. In 2009, she wrote her first novel, L'Envers des Autres. The same year, she left Algiers for Paris. Like many Algerians and Franco-Algerians, the novelist Kawthar Adimi has spent much of her life moving between Algiers, where she was born, and Paris, where she now lives. The two countries are thoroughly intertwined, a relationship Adimi explores with nuance and determination in her third novel, Our Reaches, newly translated by the excellent Chris Andrews. Moving adeptly from colonized Algiers to the present day, and from a beloved bookstore's birth to its near death, Adimi at once offers a love letter to literary culture, Algerian independence, and the city of Algiers.